Sorry about the no-show last night. Just let Bob get to me.
Hey, when it comes to that egomaniac, you don't need to be sorry.
Yeah, just don't do it again.
Let's hope Mac is just as understanding. Or not.
Wow, you finally made it. Well, only 15 hours late, but who's counting? Oh, that's right. Yeah, just everyone here waiting for you. Hey, we're sorry.
It wasn't cool.
No, you're right. It was not cool, Remy.
Don't blame them. This was me.
Well, no, we're a band. This was a group.
No, Justin, please. I'd like to hear what Thea has to say. Go on.
Kirby's ex showed up trying to win her back, and so when she said that he could see...
No, wait. Sorry, I'm going to have to stop you there. So what you're telling me is you violated your contract because you were feeling a bit insecure about your girlfriend?
Kind of, yeah.
You show up. You play, you sing. Do you ever think what goes into a gig night for me?
Of course.
I hire extra staff, ordered extra food and drinks, which, by the way, all went to waste.
I am sorry.
I pay promotional costs, stage and lighting high. But you know what really is unforgivable? You have let my customers down. Do you really think they're going to be rushing to get back here when they're not even sure you'll turn up? Mac, it will never happen again.
You have our word.
I'll make sure of it.
You can say what you like, but it means nothing to me now. You have broken my trust and you have broken your contract.
Come on, Mac.
No, Justin. I want to be reimbursed for my losses. Every single cent. Do not make me hire a lawyer.
We are Si and Sophie. This is Coastal News, a home and away podcast, your weekly episode companion podcast for your favourite Aussie soap.
Now, you better stay for every last second of this episode, Sophie.
Oh.
Don't make me hire a lawyer.
You're not here to play games. Hello.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you doing?
Yes, and well, thank you. How's your week been?
It's been all right. It's been a bit long, but yeah, I've not really done anything exciting. Maybe that's why it feels long, because I've not really done anything. But you've had a more exciting week than I've had with your new job. How's it all going?
It's going well, settled in. Thank you for asking. Yeah.
No worries. Oh, I'm glad it's going well. It's a bit weird when you start a new job, isn't it? Especially when you've worked somewhere for a long time, and then it's like, oh, who am I? Where am I?
I know. And that's going to be happening for quite a while, I think.
Yeah.
When you've done something for so long. But yes, thanks for asking. All good. Have you been busy on your Twitter this week? What's, everyone been up to date on home and away? Everyone been in touch?
Been a lot of stuff going on in the Bay this week, so I've been tweeting a lot. So people are probably just like, oh god, another tweet from Coastal News. But there's been a lot going on, hasn't there, really, with the Gary turning up and Mac and the lyric drama and everything else that's been happening this week. So there's been a lot to talk about.
Yeah, lots to say tonight, I imagine, as well. So
yeah.
Before we get into it, we just want to remind everybody about our season 3 giveaway. It's your last chance to enter. The entrance, or the competition, the giveaway, if you like, will be closing on the 1st of February, which is Wednesday. So head over to our Twitter at Coastal News Pod. All the details are on the tweet. We'll retweet it this week, so it's nice and up at the top. All you've got to do is like and retweet the original post. You could be with a chance of winning your very own home and away Coastal News mug, which is just amazing, isn't it? We did our sales pitch last time. All drinks taste great in it. If you don't have Twitter, just head to our website. Link will be in the episode description of this episode, and you can find the details on there, how to enter, and also terms and conditions of the giveaway. It's all very profesh. Do you want your headlines, Sophie? Let's make a podcast.
Yes, go for it.
Lyric's latest gig is called off, leaving Mac leaving Miak.
Miak.
Let's just go. Let's go again.
Love it.
Lyric's latest gig is called off, leaving Mac more than furious. Turns out that space Remy agreed to give Brie wasn't that big. Things get a little heated. Cash and Felicity's foster dad Gary comes to town, but the reception is lukewarm at best. And finally, Xander gets lucky, but he needs to learn to share, it seems.
Please take the time to like, subscribe, and review Coastal News wherever you source your podcasts, and ensure you never miss an episode.
So, Bob, we left, didn't we, where we were up to on last week's podcast episode. Bob was sort of giving Theo the old runaround, really, you know, really winding him up about his relationship with Kirby and how, you know, Kirby will come crawling back. You know, they had that, we called it cock measuring contest on last week's podcast. And he was sort of trying to put him in his place, wasn't he? Like, you know, me and Kirby do this. This is a cycle. You're just a blip, you know. I'm the Mr. Big. She'll always come back. In and amongst this is this sort of, it's the fortnightly gig in Salt that Lyric are contracted to. And Bob has managed to convince Kirby, I don't know how or why, but convinces her to let him sing and do a song to boost his profile. It turns out that leaving the band wasn't the best thing for his career. He's been sleeping on the floor, you know, he's homeless, he's skint. Theo gets wind of this on a voicemail because he's in the shower, doesn't like it, doesn't turn up to the gig, does he? He's like, forget it, the ex is going to be there, I've had enough. And I was thinking at this point, don't blame him. No. There was a big reaction from Kirby about, you know, why didn't you ring me back? And I could have explained it. No, he shouldn't. And I was trying to put myself in Theo's shoes. I was thinking, no, you've just left him a voicemail saying, my ex, who you caught me texting on the sly last week, wants to come out tonight and be back in the band. You'd feel pushed aside, wouldn't you?
I would, yeah, definitely. I think it was a bit crappy to do it on a voicemail. I think she should have said, give me a call, I need to talk to you about something. Not, oh, by the way, Bob's joining the band again. See you later. It's just... Yeah.
And we're all waiting for you at Salt. It was wrong, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then my back got up a bit when she then, because the gig gets cancelled, doesn't it? And she sort of storms round there and starts yelling at him. I got my back up a bit for Theo. I thought, no, lady, no, you're out of order.
I thought so as well. What I thought was interesting about that was that the other members of the band, you know, Eden and Remy, were fully behind Theo, weren't they? They didn't want Bob to rejoin. And as soon as they heard that Theo wasn't going to turn up, they were like, well, we're not playing either. You know, if Theo's not here, we're not playing. And they totally took his side. Whereas Kirby just sort of came down on Theo, didn't she? And just said, like, no, he's left us high and dry. But was that because Bob was in her ear again and saying, oh, you must feel really bad after Theo's done this to you? And, oh, because he was still pecking her head, wasn't he? After Theo didn't turn up and just putting all that stuff in her ear. You know, oh, you can't rely on him and you must feel really bad about this. Can't believe he's let you down, let the band down. Because he was saying all of that, wasn't he? Like sniping about him.
Yeah, so, he was. Yeah, he was. You're right. I actually thought that was great of the band to do that. You know, and it shows you. You know, we've spoken many a time about Eden and Remy and their characters, if you like, and how we like them and we seem to fit with them. This to me separated Kirby even more.
Yeah, it did actually. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, because they weren't as keen as Kirby was. Because when Theo auditioned for the band, and you know they said, "Oh, he's got a great voice, let's go with him," it was Kirby that was championing it and saying, like, because I think Remy and Eden were saying he's young, he's never been in a band before, he doesn't know how it works, and she was the one saying, "Give him a chance, let's give him a chance." And now it's kind of flipped, isn't it? So they've obviously seen what he can do, and it's raised their profile. And their songs are better. Kirby's happier. The whole band dynamics improved, hasn't it? Now that Bob's gone and Theo's took his place, so they're like fully Team Theo now. But she hasn't quite. She's still letting Bob get into her head, isn't she?
Yeah, definitely. And well, yeah, and she replied. This is when I was, we were talking. So I think that there's still a flame there. She's still holding a torch for him, because otherwise she wouldn't have given the time of day. We've said this the last couple of weeks, haven't we? She wouldn't have even replied to his messages. I think you're right, because we were debating last week when what's he back for? Is he back for Kirby, or is he back because the band are big? And you were saying, weren't you? No. Like he's seen that the band have took off and he wants a bit of the action. It's all about him. It's that narcissist in him, isn't it? That's driven his motivation. That scene where he's sleeping in his car, it's not even his car, is it? He's like had to borrow the car to go there. You're just thinking, this is a man down and out here, you know. And he's so full of himself. He still even thinks these people that he's crapped on are still gonna be there because he loves him. Everybody else must, you know. Very interesting response from the rest of the band. And obviously we've got to talk about Mac's response, because she was absolutely flying off the wall, wasn't she?
She was. I think she went a bit too far with this, actually. I think it was a bit too melodramatic, even for Mac. I was like, oh, Mac, it's just one night and calm down. Like, you've come back from worse. It wasn't that long ago that she was thinking of selling up, or like thinking of sleeping with some guy to get out of debt. She's been through so much worse than just missing one night of business. So I did think it was a bit of an overreaction on Mac's part.
Yeah, you could be right. I mean, I quite like Mac when she's like this. I love Mac with an attitude. I really do.
Yeah.
In fact, I rewound the scene a few times. I thought, yes, go on, girl. When she comes in, she's like, "Oh, turned up, have you? Let's hear what you've got to say. Oh, and I want every last cent." And all this stuff. And she's got the calculator. She's furiously working out how much money she's lost. I was like, "Go on, Mac." Loved it. But I suppose, I see what you're saying. However, like this whole contract thing is a bit of an elephant in the room, isn't it? It's a bit like because everything got put in writing because of they were calling her flaky and taking the mix. So they got it all locked down, didn't they? So this whole, you breached your contract thing, that was something that Justin wanted. He wanted the lock, stock and barrel, didn't he? The protection. So that's got to work both ways, I think she's got real business plan problems. If a once in a fortnight gig is the only thing keeping a business afloat. Did you see the scenes where it's like, oh, there's no band, so there's nobody here? You're just
I know.
like...
Even the next day, it was a bit. That was a bit bizarre, because that night I couldn't understand it. Justin went on the microphone and said, "Right, gig's over," and everyone disappeared. I was thinking, well, where would they go? If you're out for a night out, you don't just disappear, do you? You probably stay there for another drink, or you stay there for food or something. So I was thinking that was a bit weird that they all just disappeared the minute the band wasn't there, because there's nothing else nearby to go to instead, is there, as far as we know? Yeah,
it's all a bit strange. And there are other scenes, when there's no gig on, where there's people in there,
exactly. But it was even the next morning. So Mac came into work the next day after the gig fallout, and she said to Dean, like, all my loyal customers haven't turned up because there was no gig last night. I was thinking, that doesn't make any sense. Why would the ones that came to the gig last night still be the ones that were there today? Surely there'd be different people. I didn't get that at all.
It was weird. Silly, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And just think, if nobody is in, I mean, they're only contracted to once a fortnight. I'm thinking, well, what happens the other 13 days?
It's just a gig. If you go out for it's a local band. Let's face it, they're not like they haven't hit the big time yet. If you go to a venue to watch a gig and it doesn't happen, you don't just go, "Oh, I'm never going there again." You know what I mean? You just kind of go, "Oh, that's a shame." Get on with your life. It's so weird.
Should we kick on to Yabby Creek instead?
It was so weird. Yeah, get the bus to Yabby. I don't know what happened, but I just think that was a bit of an over drama. That whole.
Yeah, I get what you mean now you've said it. Yeah, but I do like Matt when she's on one.
Yeah,
I love a Mackenzie Warpath. I really do. And I also like the way these next scenes are edited, where Max there working out how to get rid of them. She's talking and she's like cancelling it all. I'm done with them. They've really annoyed me. They've wound me up. And then it's cutting to Justin going, let's do more gigs to pay off this.
Yeah.
You know? Like Justin's there planning more, she's planning less. I thought it was quite a funny way of doing it.
It was.
And actually, in the end, their idea is to Justin and Theo to get on the balcony and bust out a song, which actually is the best song we've heard anyone sing.
It was so good. I really enjoyed that scene. Yeah, more Justin and Theo. Band manager Justin was in his element, wasn't he? He was just like living he was living the actual dream.
I was thinking of you when I was watching it, thinking, oh, Sophie will be like, oh, Justin's finally made it in a band. This was his end game.
Yeah, I know. This filled my heart. I was like, yes.
Well, he's going to hit the road with Bob.
Oh God, someone needs to hit Bob, but there we go.
But that got the place flooded, didn't it?
It did.
So
that was very
that'll be the end of
surprising.
that.
Where did all those people come from?
Have you ever wandered past a balcony, heard some music, and thought, "Oh, let's go and have a beer"?
No.
Strange scenario.
I don't live in Palm Beach, so it's just how the other half lives, isn't it? Really.
Yet.
Yeah. There's always that's my dream. That's band manager Justin has his dream. Sophie has her own.
I told you I'd plotted the storyline. We just need to get it in.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think also I think that's the debt paid, isn't it? Is at the end of that?
I think so. I tell you what I don't understand about this storyline. So at first, when Max says you owe me $2,000, Justin's about to pay it, isn't he? And he's like, okay, give me your bank details and I'll get the money over to you. And that's when Theo pipes up and he's like, oh no, because I owe you the money. It should be me that, it's my fault the gig didn't go ahead. I don't know why he didn't let Justin pay it and then he paid Justin back, bit by bit. But then it wouldn't be a storyline, would it? They'd have to.
They wouldn't. Yeah. Well, we wouldn't. Yeah, we wouldn't have had the balcony scene, would we?
Exactly. Yeah. So it was all. It was all for that.
Like Romeo and Juliet, the balcony scene.
Well, it got Xander in the mood, didn't it?
Oh my days, did it just?
Yeah, flinging Stacey round. Yeah.
What do you make of it? This Stacey must be stopping around. She's got a job.
Yeah, she's got a job in the gym, hasn't she? Which is really weird because she said she was trained as a nurse, and I thought, doesn't that take years and years of training? And then she's decided to just work in the gym. It just seems a bit strange, but I'm not sure what to make of this girl.
Yeah, she seems nice enough.
She does, yeah.
I don't know, I've nothing to dislike her about. I mean, but I was just thinking that she was going to be a guestie, but now she's got a, like you say, she's got a job. It's a bit of a strange job if she's nurse qualified.
Yeah.
Because her and Xander, they had that disastrous date, didn't they? And
dead David.
Yeah. Don't set me off.
Sorry. Sorry, dead David's dead. Oh dear.
Is it bad? What was I saying?
I have no idea. Disastrous date, that was it.
Disastrous date.
We weren't sure whether this was just a one-off. They go on this disastrous date and then they could have drawn a line under the sand there, couldn't they? And said, it didn't work out. Sorry, nice to meet you anyway. But obviously she is sticking around because she's got this job and she's integrating into the Bay. She's getting to know Tane, she's getting to know Nico. I don't think she's going anywhere anytime soon.
No, it doesn't look like it. I know she spends her days off and Xander's days off. They spend them together down the beach, and they sort of agree to another sort of date, don't they? Really, and Xander's really into it, and it soon escalates. Back in the apartment, and she wants to see what he can do.
Yes, well, he's been wooing her with his life-saving, his cocktail making, his dancing, hasn't he? So I think that's obviously
killer cocktail.
Yeah.
That RSA just came out of nowhere, didn't it?
I'm dying to know what this RSA actually involves. What do they do to get this RSA? I've never heard. We don't have anything like that over here, do we? Because I've worked in bars and they just go, "You're over 18," and I go, "Yeah," and that's it. No,
don't you have to fill in a bit of paperwork?
I don't remember doing anything don't remember doing anything
It's,
specific.
it's a bit like I do one of my jobs in my teens years was in a cinema, and to work on the bar you had to complete some paperwork, and it was like, you know, challenging the age and the correct forms of ID that you can accept, you know, that kind of thing.
Oh gosh, I think maybe my age meant that we didn't have to do this when I got a bar job, because it was probably 2001, I think. So it was just, are you over 18? Yeah, here's my ID. Okay, right, come behind here, pull that into there. There was no training involved. There was no checking.
Sophie, I used to put a glass on the pub and I'd be like, "Bottles only tonight, lads."
Oh no. Oh, dear.
And they used to ring me up from the cash office because they could see me on CCTV, and I'd be like, "I need to change it, but I've not had a chance. I'm rushed off my feet."
Oh,
Bye.
no. Oh dear.
Fun times. We've all had jobs like that, haven't we? Jesus.
Yeah.
Jobs. Well, it turns out so had Xander while he was in med school. So there we go. And yeah, they quickly sleep together, don't they? And the next morning she's off and out, and I'm a bit worried for Xander here, right? Because I feel like we know about his sort of struggles. And we've sort of been signposted to it when she was looking at his tattoos, wasn't she, and asking, you know, what's the story behind this?
She asked him if he'd been to prison.
Tattoos equals prison.
I was like, okay, either she thinks they're really bad and they've been done with a biro, you know, in jail, or she's assuming that everyone that's got a tattoo is a crim, which is like so outdated, old-fashioned. I was like, I don't know where to go with this.
I know, but if Home and Away is your only reference, I'm not surprised you think that.
Yeah, maybe she thought it was a gang thing, like the blood and sand tattoos of the old River Boys. I don't know. Bizarre.
Alf ain't got a tramp stamp, has he?
Not that we've seen.
Mind you, he has been to prison, so.
That's true. He might have a biro one somewhere. Gosh, flaming galah up his back.
Excuse me. But I feel like that was major signposting. You know, what's the story behind these tattoos? It's for another day. I just worry that he's going to end up a little bit, a couple of steps backwards when he's come such a long way since his arrival in town. Yeah. So I could be reading too much into it, but I'm just.
I think you're right, because I don't know. This girl just seems like bad news to me. Like she hasn't done anything. She hasn't done anything wrong, because I haven't got any evidence for it. I just don't. I feel like she's going to be a bad influence on Xander, and it's not what he's looking for. She wasn't upfront with him before they slept together. You know, she only came clean about this other guy that she's dating, because he said, "Oh, what are you doing tonight? I've got the house to myself. Rose is going out," or whatever it was. And she said, "Oh, I've got another date with another guy." And I would have told you before, you know, I like to be open, honest about it, but I didn't realise we'd get so involved so quickly. And I just thought, no, you could have told him this on the first date even. It's something you bring up, surely, not just, I don't know, I just find it a bit, I don't know. I think hiding that is just a red flag for me.
Do you think? Is it? Or is it just that we're dating dinosaurs? Is this how the kids do it now?
I think it's fine to do that if everybody knows it. If you go out on a date with someone and you say, "Look, I'm interested in seeing you again, but just to let you know, I am seeing someone else," you know, before it goes any further. I'd have done that on the first date, not after the second one, after they've slept together. I just think that was too late to tell him.
Yeah. See, I don't think where we're up to anyway, and I don't know where it's going to go from here. Okay. And we'll talk about Xander's reaction in a second. But where we're up to, I think they've been on one date, and if she is dating, especially if she's on the smolder or whatever, she is going to have multiple dates lined up, isn't she? And that's
fine.
Think that's unusual. So I can't do some. But if that was, sorry to cut you off, if that was what she was doing, if I think you wouldn't say what you're up to, would you just say, "Oh, I've got plans tonight. Can I see you another time?" You sort of wouldn't be so open about it, would you? You'd be like,
That's true. Yeah.
You'd be on other dates, but until you've sort of, and if you do hit it off, you then stop the other dates, don't you? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I just think
that would
because
be what I would do.
Summer Bay is so small, the chances of them running into each other, you know, again, when she's out with this other guy in Salt or the diner, wherever else they're going to go, let's face it. I just think that because Xander comes across as so naive, and I think he does want a monogamous relationship. I think that's what he was aiming for when he first asked her out. He wasn't thinking of her being with someone else or him being with someone else.
I think it's what he needs as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
you know?
I think
and
he
you can
does.
see him. He's a bit sort of, you know, diving head first, isn't he? He's getting a bit carried away, and he's getting a bit, letting his feelings run away with him here, I think.
Yeah. I don't think the conversations they've had have been a casual hookup thing either. You know, they've spent all day together, and they're talking about his childhood and how they grew up and stuff. So it's not stuff you share with someone unless you really care about them, is it? They're not just hooking up to go to the bedroom and eat pizza, and they're spending time together, getting to know each other. And I think that starts to cross into relationship territory, doesn't it?
Yeah. Even though it's only been one date, though.
It has. It's only been that one date in Salt, but then they spent all day the next day, didn't they, together, and then spent the night together, and then they spent the next morning together.
She seems to be pretty open and like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. She should have said it. I agree with you on that point. She should have been upfront if that's the way it is. And I think the liberal side of me is a bit like, you know, go for it if everyone's happy with that plan. And I think a lot of people are like that nowadays, you know. So I think it's an interesting story for Home and Away to cover, because you wouldn't expect it from Home and Away. He's taken aback though, isn't he? Bless him. Like we've just said, he wants monogamy. He's falling for her ridiculously fast. He doesn't strike me as someone who's had a great deal of experience in this department. I am reading between the lines there, filling in his own backstory there myself. And you know, and he struggles with the confidence, and like you say, you know, he's come a long way and blah 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 blah. Then he sort of agreed to it, but you know, he's not okay with it, is he?
No.
He tells Rose, because Rose can see he's not his jolly self anymore. So I think she's going to get a bit too involved.
Oh
for a start.
Inevitable, isn't it? Yeah.
I'll just, like I say, I worry it's going to end up in Xander being a bit heartbroken here.
The only thing that's just making me think is that if he knew from the offset, because she says basically, I'm not interested in you know, a one person relationship. I'm going to be dating other people, multiple. And she said that, you know, that it wasn't, oh, I'm just doing that now to find someone. It was, this is my lifestyle. This is how I live. If he'd known that before he slept with her, would he have slept with her? I don't know.
This is it. He would have had the choice.
Yeah.
You know, before his feelings went there. Yeah. You're right. That was sort of taken away from him, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He should have been up front. He'd have had the option to have gone there or not.
Yeah.
Now he's got feelings, and he's sort of, you know, they've spent that time together. He sort of feels obliged, because he said it himself. But I want to see her again, so I've agreed to it. And you're like, well, that's not why you should agree to something like that. The jealousy is gonna ruin them before they've even become anything.
Yeah.
And you know, that's just one mental issue. Doesn't need to add to the list. You know. I don't mean to sound flippant about that, by the way.
No,
I know
what you mean. Yeah, he's got a history of getting attached to people that he's barely even met. You know, he's got tattoos for people that he's met 5 minutes ago that died, and yet he's way more involved with this girl than he is with those patients. So how is this going to affect him mentally?
Really interesting story, though, isn't it?
Yeah, fascinating.
This completely blindsided me. You know, I didn't expect this. So see where this goes. I saw an article on the Daily Star this morning saying Home and Away's new poly storyline. And then it was sort of, here's a list of couples with an open relationship, like one of those type things. But
Yeah.
so, it sounds like we might be, we're just a bit nervous about it, but really interesting story, I think. There's a few interesting things starting up now.
Yeah.
Talking about sort of, multiple partners, sharing people. Remy and Brie. Oh my God. He'd agreed to give us space, hadn't he? And she's trying. We left her. She was trying to work out, what she was going to do. She's not. She's taken a sweet time about it. Let me tell you. Been about 3 weeks, hasn't it?
I know. He's coming back in about 9 or 10 weeks, isn't he? They haven't got long.
No. But rather than, there's a scene on the beach, isn't there, where we're sort of reintroduced back to the storyline, like we do.
Yeah.
And he's with Eden, and she's had a serve or whatever, and she's like, I thought you were going to leave her alone, and he's running up to her, and before they know it, they're going for coffee. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
We're going to cross some boundaries here right off the off. And they meet up in Seoul, and she's looking radiant. She's just fresh off the surf. And he's straight to it, isn't he? Because he's worried. He's worried about her. He's trying to help her, and he's probably thinking like us, now it's happening. What we're doing about this? And she snaps. I didn't come here to get interrogated. And she tries to leave, and he manages to talk around. And she's going to come to the gig. So I think he's treading a fine line between supporting her and making things worse for her, at this stage. What did you think at this point? Her agreeing to the gig, her agreeing to the coffee. They want it, don't they? But they know it's wrong.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. And I think he reminds her of, I think with her, Jacob's out of sight, out of mind. So now he's gone. The problem's gone away, and she knows the problem's going to come back in 9 or 10 weeks, and she knows that she's not going to have a plan. But every time she sees Remy, it reminds her he's coming back soon. And I think she freaks out, and he's kind of asking those questions and saying, "What are you going to do?" Is reminding her that she still doesn't know, and she still hasn't got her head straight. And then also she's got all these feelings for him, so she wants to be with him, she wants to spend time with him. But then when she does, she feels guilty because she's like, this is wrong, and I'm married. She spent all that time getting dressed up for the gig, didn't she? She looked amazing, but she saw herself in the mirror just as she was about to leave, and then that pang of guilt came again because she was excited. She wanted to go and meet Remy. She wanted to see him. She probably got butterflies in her stomach and all that. And then she looks in the mirror and she's like, "Oh, but I'm married, and this is wrong." And I think that's what she's feeling when she's with him. She's like, "I want to be with this guy, and I like spending time with him." But then he's asking me questions about, Jacob, and reminding me that problem is still there. I can't run away from it. I haven't got a plan. Yeah. She's just all over the place in her head, isn't she?
Yeah, she is. And her franticness, her, like this, they say all this all over the place in her head makes me frantic.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, this is a nightmare.
Anxiety.
He's gonna walk in any minute. I was messaging you. I was like, why has Remy gone over to Travel Dodge? And like, hello, he's gonna walk in. I bet he's kept a key card. I was like,
he's definitely got a key card. They needed to move rooms. They should have moved to a different room, and then at least he couldn't just walk in and bust them. And I was thinking that the whole time. One day he is going to just walk in.
It's gonna. The problem is, until it happens, we're just literally on tenterhooks, aren't we? Just waiting. Yeah. I called it the mirror moment in my notes. I've just glanced down. Mirror moment. Does she say the words something like, "I've spent an hour getting ready for a man that's not my husband"?
Yes.
I think she is upset with herself that she's allowed herself to feel for another person, but then there's the other part of her mind. It's like an internal battle. There's another part of her mind that's really angry that her husband has led her to feel like this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's a really interesting element to the whole thing. I'm a bit like, you can see she's fighting inside, the urges and the feelings she's developed for Remy.
Yeah.
And then this anger that it didn't have to be like this.
Yeah.
Like I'm
Yeah.
married and it wasn't, this wasn't supposed to happen, and it's his fault, I like that she's not being the victim though.
Yeah.
She's not sort of woe is me, but what's the word I'm looking for? She's not too far that way. She's confident enough, like after they sleep together, because that quickly happens, and she says, I've never, just strange feeling this safe, and she's still the next morning, she's embracing him, she's kissing him, and we're starting this startup, we'll call it an affair because it's what it is. But she's owning that behavior. I just think she's going to have this internal battle constantly because she's got something unresolved with Jacob, is what I'm trying to say in a roundabout way.
She's taking responsibility, isn't she? She's acknowledging it's an affair. She's acknowledging that it's wrong, but in her head, she wants to date Remy, and she was getting ready for a date with someone, and then she realised, oh, but I actually am married to someone else, and that's the problem, isn't it? She knows it's wrong, but she can't stop herself.
Yeah, this is it, and then that's making her compare and reflect.
Yeah,
but they're gonna be the bad people because she's not doing the right thing ultimately.
Yeah.
Ultimately, she needs to end her relationship with Jacob, doesn't she? And because she's not doing that, the longer it goes on, the more stress you and I have. But also, the more she's being unfair to everybody, to Remy, to Jacob. I know you're probably thinking, he doesn't deserve that sort of compassion, but at the end of the day, she's married, he's her husband, and she must feel something for him, or had felt something for him. They've got a history, they've got a life that can't mean nothing to her, you know.
And it's his future, isn't it? So he's gone away thinking, oh, when we get back, I'm going to move to the Bay, I'm going to find a job, we're going to have a family. He's planning his life around something that's not going to happen, and that isn't, despite what he is and what he's done, he still needs to be told that future's not yours, and he's got to have time to plan what he is going to do. He's probably going to try and kill her and end up in prison. That's my guess. But he needs to know about this, because it's not fair, even if he is an absolutely horrible person, to string him along and make him think he's got this future that he's never going to have. He needs the time to process this and work out what he's going to do as well. That's only fair, isn't it, really?
Yeah, completely agree. Fair, I think we need here,
Yeah.
I thought it was really weird, though, that she's like, I can't do this. Found myself getting ready, for another man. And the next scene we see her, she's cracking open a bottle of Pinot. Like,
I know. I did think it was a bit, I don't know what the word is, but when Remy came round and knocked on the hotel door, because he was worried because she didn't turn up to the gig, and he's thinking, Jacob's come back, he's hurt her, she's not messaged me for whatever reason. He's gone round there to see she's okay. She's answered the door and she is okay. And she obviously, she's in a flap, isn't she? And she says, like, look, I couldn't come. I was getting ready for a man, and, realised that I was married and realised it was wrong. And I thought at that point, what Remy should have done was just leave her alone to think and come. But what he actually did was, are you going to invite me inside? And I thought, I don't know, with her being so fragile and in a relationship with someone where she can't say no, she's probably used to being a people pleaser and saying yes when actually she wants to say no. And I thought, by him saying, are you going to invite me in? I thought, would she have said no?
Yeah.
Would she have told him, go away? I don't know.
Yeah. Does he know exactly what he's doing?
I don't know. I felt a bit uncomfortable.
See, it's a bit of character assassination as well, because Remy, we keep hearing about Remy would never do that with a married woman. Remy's a lot of things, but he's not bad. We've heard that a few times.
And Eden said to him, the next day when he was doing the walk of shame to the band meeting, and she was like, oh, you didn't come home last night. Were you with Brie? Was you just talking, or was, something happened? And he said, I'm not going to tell you. And she said, come on, that's not like you. You're not like this. This isn't you. So we hear that a lot. This isn't like you.
We've got another one who's fallen.
Yeah.
And he's not seeing the wood from the trees. He's going to end up in hospital.
Oh, I don't want to see that.
So your theory of attempted murder's probably more on the nose.
Yeah.
But I think. Oh God, I'm just so nervous about it. But ain't it good? Ain't it juicy?
It is good. I am. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible storyline, but I am really enjoying it. I am enjoying the scenes. Yeah, because it's given us the scenes with Eden and Remy. It's given us the scenes with Bree and Eden. It's given us the scenes with Bree and Remy. I think all of those have been really good.
Yeah.
But I am just behind a cushion waiting for Jacob to turn up.
I know, but then the episode ends. You're like, and I need tomorrow now. Like, because it's one of those storylines you can't be left with. You've got to see it through, and yeah. It's just what we need, I think. So, Gary comes to town as well. Can't not forget Gazon.
Can I just apologise to Gary, because last week when we did the first look episode and we talked about what was going to happen this week, and you read something out to me, didn't you, and said that Gary is Rose's new hero or something, and I absolutely wept myself laughing, and I was like, how can she possibly have a new hero? He's been in town for 2 days. Hello, Gary is my hero. I am on board.
Now you know.
I get it. Gary's an icon. I love him. I feel like I've known Gary my whole life. He's only been in 2 episodes.
And he's cute, and he's dead nice. He's just a nice bloke. Is he perm or what? Can we petition to get Gary permanent?
Keep Gary forever. I love him. He's my new favourite.
Just like 2 episodes. Oh.
It's so good. And I was just looking at him the whole time thinking, I know your face. And he's been in so many things. I had to Wikipedia him because I was like, I know I've seen him before. I can't remember why. And he's been in Baywatch. He's been in Heartbreak High. He played a character called John Palmer in Sons and Daughters, which is a program I didn't watch, but I thought that was hilarious because we then had a scene later on where Gary met John Palmer, and I thought that was interesting. And also John said something about how he needs to go and save lives, and I don't know if you noticed, but he punched Gary on the shoulder and he went, you know what I mean? And I thought that's a Baywatch reference because Gary was a lifeguard in Baywatch.
Oh, blimey, check you out.
So I was like really beady-eyed on every scene that Gary was in. And when the John Palmer scene happened, I was like, John Palmer's meeting John Palmer. So I was really interested. So, I'm such a geek. I love stuff like that.
He has been a great addition, and it's a really nice story because it's fleshing out Cash and Flick's childhood. Yes. At the same time, introducing just a nice character. You know, I know you've been having some discussions with some of our listeners this week about is that a suspicion thing? Because everyone's got a secret, you know. Yeah. So we are a bit dubious, but can anyone really be that nice?
Well, a lot of people have contacted us in the week. So I think I put a tweet out saying what's everyone feeling about Gary, and what's the feedback. And as you just said, not many new people come to the Bay who haven't got a skeleton or a dark secret or some reason for us to go and you did this when. Some people have been saying I really like him, the feedback's been really good, but we've been there before, we've all been burned, so we're all thinking, is Gary as good as he comes across? Is he hiding something? Is there a dark secret back there? But I don't think there is. I think he is just genuinely nice.
No, I think it's been more about Felicity, hasn't it, than him.
Yes.
I mean, he come. I'm actually saying, what is that truck that Gary is going? You had to rewatch it. It was a quick one line, and you missed it. He's brought the ute for them. But I was like, I was texting you, going, is everyone ignoring that thing you're towing?
I must have been tweeting because you were like, what was he towing a vehicle? And I was like, what? When we rewound it, I was like, he is towing a vehicle. And then later on in the diner, again, I must have missed it the first time I watched it. But Cash said something like, I'm going to take it over to Justin's to get repaired for the wedding. And it turns out it's Flick and Cash's dad's ute. And it sounds like there's loads of stories about Flick going out and sleeping in the car, when she was missing her dad, so she's really attached to it and everything. So it took me a couple of rewatches because it's one of them, literally blink and you miss it things. So I was like, what are you on about? A ute?
I was like, where did that come from? So thank you for that extra work there. working that out for me.
No worries. I'm glad you raised it because I would have missed it if you hadn't. I'd been like, what?
Well, it turns out it came important a bit later on. But,
Yeah.
And so he's rocked up outside on the cul-de-sac, hasn't he? Cash has run out and he's been like, what the hell are you doing here? I told you to meet me at the surf club, blah, 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 blah. Works it out pretty fast. You've not told your sister I'm here, have you? So Cash has sort of lured him to the bay. Obviously, there's the impending wedding, isn't there? And there was this talk about her not wanting him there. She only wants Cash there the week before. Gary's great about it. He's sort of like, she'll speak to me when she's ready. I'm not going to force anything. And then every time with every line that he utters, we, the audience, are just sucked in even more, aren't we? We're just like, oh, that was such a nice thing to do. Isn't he great?
I'm inviting Gary to my wedding. Never mind Flicks.
Especially if you're freaking out about it. He even goes to the diner and gives Irene a bit of a chat up, doesn't he?
He does.
Bit of the old smooth operator.
Well, the diner ladies were all over him, weren't they? Let's be honest. They were all over it. Oh, you're so good looking. You're so charming.
You've got all your hair at your age.
He's a man about town now. Like, yeah. Gosh. I told you last week he's going to be on Smolder, didn't I?
You did. And Smolder's probably the word. I bet you would do that. Good looking old fella. Ultimately, he's there for Flick, and he says, let her come to me if she wants to. Cash is pressing it, isn't it? She's found out he's in town and Cash has tried to ambush her with him. She's hit the roof. She's had a go at Cash. She's had a go at Tani. Everyone's getting it from all angles. She's had a go at John, who thought he was really nice when he was wheeling his bins out, whatever. And he's just like, she's not ready for the big family reunion. I get it. And there's this moment, it comes to a head. He's over there talking to Cash and she comes in, sees him, and it sort of then starts this dialogue between the two of them, slowly but surely. Ultimately, they get to this point where they sit down and have a chat together. Not before, like you say, John has sort of said, well, as a foster dad, I think he's, I agree with him and I see what he's saying. Well, as a foster child, John, you don't know what you're talking about, so rack off. So that was the final sort of exhale I think she needed, and they banged their heads together. However, here we go. I don't get it. Just don't get it. So it turns out that Gary isn't evil. Nope. He's not been horrible to her. He's not, she's not had a terrible childhood that she couldn't bear in terms of, when in his care. Obviously, she's not had the best start in life. But his care wasn't neglectful or anything like that. It was, well, I was an arsehole to him. Therefore, I'm angry with him. And I was thinking, what the hell is happening here?
I went on a journey with Flick with this one. So yesterday, I think it was, hang on, what did it start with? So she was, I think she was angry at herself to start with, because she was saying to Cash, I know she was talking to Tani actually. She was saying he was a good dad. He was loving. Him and Kath gave us everything. I was horrible to him. And I thought, and you're continuing to be horrible to him. So I think she was kind of ashamed that she treated him so badly when she was younger. And then she's just carried on that. But I couldn't work out, like you, I couldn't work out why. I was thinking, okay, so she didn't want him to replace her dad. I get that. I can understand that. She was 9 years old when her dad killed himself and her mum was already dead. And all she wanted was her own mum and dad back. She didn't want some substitute dad. And that's what she would have seen him as. So I kind of got that. But then on Friday's episode, there was a bit more that we were given. And it was about, her coming to terms with her dad's death. When she first arrived in the bay, she was so convinced that her dad had been murdered because she didn't want to believe that somebody would take their life and leave 2 children behind after they've already lost their mum. You know, she didn't want to believe that he'd chosen to do that to them and chosen to leave them and all of that sort of stuff. So she'd given herself this conspiracy theory in her own head to cope with it, that her dad was murdered. And it came out on Friday's episode that she thought Gary was part of that, because Gary, we keep hearing about Gary, the one cop in the town, wherever they grew up. So she was convinced that her dad had been murdered, and Gary was involved in covering it up because he didn't want to investigate his murder. He didn't want to open the case. He didn't want to find out who killed him, because he knew it had been ruled a suicide. He believed it was a suicide. Their dad was in debt. He took his life, you know, because he couldn't cope anymore. He had 2 children. He'd lost his wife, who's a widower, and then he got all this debt on him as well. You know, it was crushing him. Everything that had happened has crushed him, and unfortunately, he's decided to take his own life. And Gary knows that. So he's not treating it like a murder, but because Flick's so convinced, because she's convinced herself, Gary's part of the problem. Gary's the one that covered it up. Gary was the copper that could have investigated it, but he didn't bother. And he's meant to be his best friend. That's where the hatred came from, I think.
Right. Okay. When you put it like that, I understand it a bit better. I was just thinking, do we hate him because he's nice and...
That's what I was thinking on Thursday. I was thinking, what is her problem? He's lovely, and he's, from what she said, you know, oh, they were really nice to us, and I was like, oh, why are we so upset about it then? But then she did explain, you know, to Tane, he's the one that I thought was covering up the murder, and now, now I've realised that it's not that. I need to go, because she said to Cash, I need to get over myself. I don't know why it's taken me so long. I've got past the dad thing. Why am I still angry with Gary? And, you know, it took her a while to get there, but we're there now, I think, aren't we?
Oh, I think so. And they went through all the pictures, didn't they? And
I know.
the stories and I just thought these were lovely scenes with the 2 of them.
Yeah.
You know, they're out by the pool. There were scenes out there.
They even talked about cleaning the pool.
Someone... It needs retiling. A clean's not going to touch the side.
Oh, they just need to fill it now. It's done. That pool is so gross.
Send in the cement mixer in you.
It's so gross. It just needs to be filled in now. Pretend it didn't happen.
Yeah, look, gorgeous scenes. And of course, then they decide to go off down to Salt, don't they, for celebratory drink. And while I was gone on, you know, Cash had found this necklace in the ute because he was helping Justin, and the necklace belongs to the mother. So there's all these stories about, oh, I remember this, and I remember. Just such a lush episode, right? In terms of, you know, Felicity and Cash and their history and their childhood. And we're starting to get a bit of a happy family vibe. There's a wedding on the way. You know, everyone's dad's here now, and he's talking to everyone, and he's formally introduced to Tane.
Yes.
She gets notification of a delivery being left on the doorstep. Her and Cash go back to the house, and it's the wedding invites, and then she flicks back, you know, finding problems where there isn't one, you know, freaking out. There's a date, there's an RSVP, what am I going to do? What am I doing? That person in that picture isn't me. And all unnecessary, because, like, what did you think when the pictures were being taken several days earlier on Nick's iPhone 4? Anyone can be. Like, do you know when they were doing that? I was like, is this wedding on a shoestring? You know, like, it hadn't been sort of, the money and the cost of it hasn't really been mentioned, has it? But there's been a few sort of, like, oh, we're not having a photographer, you just do it on your phone. Oh, we don't want a reception, we'll have a, you know, back at the house.
Yeah.
We're going to have the reception at the house, and then we're just going to do the wedding on the beach. And so it sort of alluding to there not being any money to pay for it.
Well, I was wondering about that as well, because she's obviously, Cash and Flick did inherit money from their dad's farm when that was sold, didn't it? So Cash's money, I presume, is still somewhere.
Oh yeah, we know Flicks is in the business, and
Flicks is in Seoul, but Cash has still got however much money Flick put into Salt, Cash has got the equivalent of that stashed somewhere, which is surprising because he's living in a spare room at his sister's house and he still hasn't got his own house. And, you know, he has got some cash somewhere.
Drinks a lot of takeaway coffee and that adds up.
He does, that's true. But I don't know what cash Flick has got. And if you remember, Tane not that long ago was in trouble thinking about selling the gym and all of that stuff. Because the business was bad, wasn't it? And then the tech stuff happened, and I don't think they've got a lot of money between the two of them, have they?
It certainly seems that way when it comes to this wedding prep, you know.
And they want to get married in 2 months. It's not like they got engaged and then decided to save up for 2 years, you know, and then have a big wedding. It's like it's going to be exactly 8 weeks.
Exactly.
So we've got to do it with the money that's in our bank accounts because we haven't got time to save up, you know.
2 paydays to go. Yeah, I don't think I could have paid for my wedding in 2 paydays.
No.
Yeah, you're right. So there's definitely a money thing, but it's not been explicit, has it?
Hasn't,
you know.
No.
And then Gary's now turned around to Tanya and he's got him on his own and he said, you know, I want to pay for the wedding. I want you to convince Felicity to do it. I don't want to overwhelm her, but I want to pay for the wedding. And I wonder now if the wedding's going to get a bit bigger, you know, now that there's some cash there, you know.
Yeah. Yes, because this was after Tane spoke to him about because Gary said, oh, so you're getting married on the beach? And Tane said yes. And then you're having a reception at home? And Tane said yes. And then that's when Gary said, well, I'd like to pay for it. So either Gary's thinking, this is the cheapest wedding ever, and it won't cost me very much if I just look like the hero now and throw in some cash. Or he's thinking, this wedding is being done on the shoestring and these guys need some help and I can give that to them. And that's something that Cash's and Flick's parents would have done. They would have stepped up when and because the daughter of the bride, all that, you know, traditional stuff. They would have said, well, let's pay for the wedding. So he's stepping up to something that their dad would have done, isn't he, really?
Gary, you can't do any wrong.
I know, I love Gaza. I love him. Bless him. So, yeah, I think I don't know whether he was thinking, oh, these guys are trying to do it on the cheap. And actually, I could make their lives a bit easier by giving them the cash and making them not have to worry about, you know, the budget and that kind of thing.
Seems that way, doesn't it? It's just, it was something that it was a bit like an undercurrent. I did think when, like I say, when Neat was taking the pictures on his phone, I thought it's a bit strange that. So.
Yeah, but then casual is Flick, isn't it? As well, she doesn't like a big fuss.
Yeah. So well, look, the bloody invites have sent her into a tiz. I just don't see it happening in this wedding. She's too, you know,
got her head around it
everywhere with it. No, she's not ready for it. I just don't see it happening.
No, I think she needed some time because she kept saying at the beginning, didn't she? I need some time to get my head around getting married, and this wasn't something I saw in my future, and I just need a bit of time. And then within the same breath, she said, "Okay, let's get married in 8 weeks." And I was like, "This is not enough time." I think they could have done with 6 months. Let's get our finances in order. Think about what kind of wedding we want. Take the pressure off us a bit. But Flick's just gone. Yep, let's get it on with it. Let's just get on with it. So. Mad.
Watch this space.
Right, now it's time for Your Say on the Bay, and I think that is the title we're going with now because it's sticking. So we're joined for Your Say on the Bay this week with Jack. Hello, Jack.
Hello, Sophie.
How you doing? You all right?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Good. You got a bit of a cold, haven't you?
I have, unfortunately.
Oh,
but I wanted to do this, so.
Oh, bless you. You're a trooper.
Well, I'll take that.
Bless you. Right. And for anybody that's a regular listener, you'll probably recognise Jack's voice because Jack, you joined us last year, didn't you, when we did the awards episode?
I did. I announced one.
Yeah, you did. So welcome back to the pod.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. So for Your Say on the Bay, I don't know whether you know this, Jack, but what this segment is for season 3 is we're looking at any tweets that have been tweeted on the hashtag Home and Away hashtag on Twitter. and we're looking at any tweets that people have sent to our Twitter page, which is at Coastal News Pod. If anyone's got in touch with us with any opinions or views, or if anyone's emailed us, because we have got an email address as well, which is coastalnewspod@gmail.com, isn't it, Si?
It is. All
Yeah.
modcons.
Ooh, I always forget whether
Fancy.
it's .com or .co.uk, but it's .com. So yeah, it's just to sort of have a chat really around any topics that have come up in the week, because as you know, we tweet along with the episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So occasionally we get, into a discussion with some people that are also watching it at the same time. So this week, I mean, let's explain to the fans. You actually watch the show at Ozpace, don't you, Jack?
I do. I have for 18 years now.
Gosh, yeah, that's a
I
long
know.
time.
Since 2005.
Oh my gosh! So
I
we
know.
have given you a little bit of a warning before the show and said this is where we're up to in the UK.
No, I promise I won't. I promise I won't.
So don't put your foot in it and tell us a big spoiler.
No,
but
I won't.
This week
there isn't anything, but I won't. I promise I
Okay.
won't.
Thank you.
Not at all.
No worries.
Not at
So
all. I learned
this
my
week.
lesson.
Oh, bless you. No, don't worry. So this week in the UK, what we've seen, really, there's a big storyline going on at the moment with Flick as she prepares for her wedding. And we've got foster dad, Gary, has turned up in the Bay. So we've only had about 3 episodes of Gary so far. In the main episode, we've just been talking about what happened with Gary this week. But we also mentioned that Gary's, he's pretty famous as an actor. So he's been in a lot of things before. He's been in Baywatch. He's been in Sons and Daughters. He's been in Heartbreak High. He's been in all kinds of films. So this is a guy that's been around for quite a while. But I was asking for feedback basically on the hashtag, what people think of Gary. He seems to be like a nice guy. So people have been sort of getting in touch and they're saying, I think Michelle said, Gary seems really sweet. So obviously I'm immediately suspicious. And then someone else has put, I think they were called Snow or something. So she put something like, I do trust Gary. I think he generally wants to sort things out with Flick. However, usually newcomers have some kind of dark secret. So you just, you don't know. So this is an interesting topic because, there's been a lot of people over the years that have come to the Bay that you think they're great from the start, and then something in their backstory, comes to light and you start to reevaluate your opinion of them. Or they turn up and you absolutely can't stand them from day one. And then something happens that you find out in their backstory and actually it flips it the other way around. And you think, oh, I do like them now because I found out, why they were so horrible or why they were so standoffish or whatever it is, the reason that you didn't like them. So I thought that was quite an interesting thing that these people are, that at the moment they're loving Gary, but this could turn on its head at any point because we're all still suspicious of, we've been burned in the past by this, haven't we? So
I know it's dreadful, isn't it? Anyone new, and it's like sort of flaming torches and pitchforks.
It's a little bit like, who are you? What's your backstory? Where have you come from? Are you a good or a bad
I
one?
know. I've done that with partners of family before. I sort of point at them and say, "You're new."
Suspicious. Trust nobody.
No, I did with one of my cousin's husbands. I did that. It was funny.
Oh man, it's got into real life now.
I said, you're new. I don't know.
I love that.
Oh, bless me, yeah.
Do you remember these storylines when you watched them at Ozpace with Gary turning up? What were your opinions of Gary when you first saw him arrive?
I definitely, when you were saying what a famous actor he's been, just Heartbreak High, that I knew, yes. One of those faces that you know from somewhere.
Yeah, I had to look him up because I was like, I know this guy's face. Yeah.
Home and Away, you often see someone and think, oh, I've seen you before.
Yeah.
And then they're
normally in Home and Away.
Yeah, they're true.
He has been in Home and Away before, actually. He was in Home and Away years ago as another character with a different name, but I don't think it was a big part.
Away, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
but do you remember your first impressions of him? Did you like him, not like him? Or?
I don't know. I think I was a bit... Possibly, I know this is going to be annoying. I did quite like him. I was a bit indifferent. I think, but because, as far as I can remember, my sticking point with things like this is that we possibly hadn't heard of him before.
Yes.
We knew
I said that last week, didn't I?
Parents,
yeah.
But we didn't know about him.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's like, when somebody turns up and you know, it's like everybody else, you know, these established sorry, put my teeth back in, characters have known about him and we haven't.
Yes.
And then it's like suddenly they're sort of integrated into these people's story, and it's just a bit like, what?
Yeah.
It's not so much being suspicious of the character. It's like, excuse me,
who are you? Yeah.
Yeah, who are you? And
and
why
this
are
is
we expected to suddenly accept you and know instantly who you are as if they do?
That's interesting, actually, because when we were looking at this last week, and Sai was reading out the synopsis for the episodes that were going out this week on Channel 5, and one of the ones that he read out to me was, and Gary's turned up, foster dad Gary, and you know Rose is a big fan of him, and I actually burst out laughing when he read the synopsis to me, because I was like, we've never even heard of Gary, and now you know he's been in town a day, and Rose is like his biggest fan, and
I know.
Before this, I think I remember them mentioning foster parents, but like you, I don't remember the name Gary being mentioned. I don't remember any like memories of the foster dad or anything like that, or you know that he's a nice guy. I mean, Cash has obviously been in touch with him because he keeps saying, "Oh, you know." He said to Rose something like, "Cash is talking about you, and he's really, you know, speaks highly of you, thinks a lot of you." And I thought, oh, they're obviously in touch. But in the show that we've seen so far, we've not heard any mention of this. So he has come out of the left field a little bit, like Gary, you know, foster dad Gary, superhero Gary.
Yeah.
There has been that first episode when he arrived, it was like, who's this? And why is he here? And what's going on? But actually, I've really enjoyed his arrival in the Bay. And I'm agreeing with most people on Twitter, actually, that he's been a welcome addition this week. It's been quite nice to see that and to flesh out Cash's and Flick's backstory. But I am still thinking, but is there anything underneath?
I was going to say, it's not your first rodeo with Home and Away. You're waiting for it, aren't you? And you're thinking, nobody can just be a nice guy. There's very little characters in Home and Away that I start off liking.
Yes.
I've said this before. I can probably count on one hand characters that I thought, oh, they're cool. I really like them.
Yeah.
Normally, I'm like, he's a bit of a pillock, you know. And then they go on the arc, you know. They go on the arc, and then I love them 6 months later, you know. So I think it's probably going to help. He's a guestie, right? Gary, he's here to facilitate Flick's story into this wedding, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And it, like we've just been talking about, it fleshes him out a bit. It fleshes their sort of childhood out. I think you, Jack, hit it on the nose when you say it's the acceptance that we're all talking about here. Can we accept him as he is when we don't know anything about him? We've now been told Cash has been in touch with him, but Cash has never dropped that name ever.
No.
And
I don't. I mean, this isn't. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, so that just feeds into that suspicion you have.
Yeah. No, I was going to say it's interesting because I sort of had sort of speculation as to what Felicity's problem with him was or is.
Yeah.
And as I said, I'm not going to, sort of say, but it was just whether there was something that had happened.
Well,
this is between the two of them rather than.
Well, this is it. That's just aired tonight, so they've had this heart-to-heart talk, and because I was saying to Sophie in the week, what is the problem here? Is it just because it seemed to be on the face of it that Felicity didn't want to speak to and didn't want to know because she was a nightmare as a teen. Because of the obvious reasons, her parents, loss of her parents.
Yeah.
Like, seems to be no other reason, and I was thinking, oh, God, is it something really dark?
Well, no, so was I. Absolutely.
Yeah, but it wasn't. It was just that.
No, I know. It was a bit of I don't know. Was it a disappointment? Possibly.
It made sense to me tonight because I think it was on Thursday night's episode when she was saying, oh, I was horrible to him. And and I was thinking, yeah, but you still are being horrible to him, so your behaviour's not changed. So how are we getting past this? You're mad at yourself because you were horrible to him in the past, but you're still being horrible to him in the future. So why are we still doing this? Why are we repeating the past? But on tonight's episode on Friday night, she kind of opened up a bit further with Tane, and she said, you know, I told myself this lie when Dad died that he'd been murdered, and I convinced myself that this was true, and I convinced myself that Gary was part of it. He was the cop in town, and he was covering up this murder. He refused to investigate it, and that's why, you know, I didn't like him. So that made a bit more sense tonight. So I don't think there's anything sinister in Gary's backstory, but you know, we've all been there before, haven't we? So
we have.
We're
and
not
I guess
sure.
you sort of look for one because you expect it to happen.
Yeah, you do, definitely. Yeah.
Like the subtitle. Home and Away fan, always suspicious.
Trust no one. It's the X-Files thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Trust no one.
Yes. Can you think of any other examples of characters that have come in and they've just been nice, and we've sort of developed a drama ourselves as fans? I'm trying to think of one.
Recently, I think for me, Bree, when Bree first came into it, I liked her from episode 1. She's just nice. She doesn't, but she has got that back history that's not. It's awful, but it's not something that's sinister for her. She's not a sinister person or a horrible person. But I did like her from day one, and my opinion of her hasn't changed since learning, you know, about Jacob. I don't. Yeah, there's not been many. I guess Logan was the last one as well. I quite like Logan from episode 1.
Too.
Yeah, when he turned up and and it was the CGI kangaroo car crash, wasn't it, that he attended?
Oh yeah.
Oh God, I've forgotten about that. I've forgotten about CGI Skippy.
And he kind of flew in on his helicopter, didn't he? And he just took charge, and he was like, right, do this and do that. And I was like, who's this guy? He's amazing. And I just loved him.
He was such a breath of fresh air.
He was, yeah.
Yeah, they did that. There was a couple of actors at the time that they did dirty with.
Yeah.
With that, Jasmine was the other one. Because they forced us to dislike her.
Yeah, they totally character assassinated, didn't they?
Well, it was.
Yeah,
it completely was, because she would never have done that. But anyway,
no, you're right. But I think Logan. Can you think of any others? I can certainly think of lots where I didn't like them immediately. You know, when they turned up, and now I've grown to love them. I'm thinking of Theo more recently. We absolutely hated Theo last year. I mean, you and me, Si, on every week last year, we were banging on about how much he wound us up in these, you know, challenge videos, and he was so up himself.
Putting pins in my eyes, honestly.
I know. We were like, I can't stand the guy. And then all that stuff came out with his dad and the abuse storyline, and we suddenly were like, okay, we love him. We think he's great.
You want to hear us now? We're like, oh, Theo, we need more Theo. What has happened to us?
I know. We absolutely hated him last year. We were like, take him off the screen. I literally shouted it, didn't I, last year? And now I'm like, I love him. I think he's great. But yeah. There's quite a lot of those where they turn up and you just think, oh my God, who is this? I mean, I didn't like Bob. He's another recent one.
I think all of Lyric come under that.
Really? Do you not like any of Lyric?
Oh, they're just my biggest. Well, I have many problems with them, but I won't print out a list. The one thing that annoyed me was that they never had scenes with anybody else apart from them.
At the beginning, they didn't. Yeah. They didn't integrate very quickly.
There was no integration at all. Yeah. It was just all with, and it went on. It seemed to go on and on.
Yeah.
And it was like they were in their own show rather than.
Yeah.
In this one, and they're just so beige.
Really good point. Yeah.
They really were. It was just, honestly, you sort of. I don't know. I've had yawns. I've been more interested in them.
They were just sort of plonked in, and then it was like, actually, I mean, we've said this a few times, like, because we think that it sort of splintered into two then, like Eden and Remy went off and sort of got their own storylines outside of the band, stopped turning up to band meetings, etc., and sort of went and then started developing, and we started liking them, or at least enjoying their stories. And then Theo and Kirby, Sophie calls it the coupling we didn't need, that sort of trapped them into they're just writing songs, talking to radio hosts, and doing nothing else in the bay.
Theo come into his own now, I think, being in a relationship with her.
It's stunted him, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Bob was just...
He was awful.
Just pointless.
Yeah.
Frankly.
Yeah, it was just to create a bit of drama, wasn't he, really?
Yeah. And then they brought him back, didn't they, to cause them problems? And
yeah, we've just had that this week. So Kirby
I got away with it.
Yeah.
The pause. It was the pause. I was like, he's checking.
No, I know. No, it's all right. It's all right. Yeah, it'll be good, I promise.
No, that's just been this week. So you bob on with that one.
Yeah. No, I did read.
Pardon the pun.
No, it's all right. This once. But yeah, yeah. I think they're the people that I've kind of, had
examples of new characters that just start working.
Yeah, just blah. They're just
It's fair enough. I think a lot of people agree with you, Jack. There's been a lot of discussion on the hashtag. There's still people every day tweeting that they're not keen on the band, even though. For me, I've come away from that now. I wasn't sure at the beginning. I didn't hate them when they turned up because I think I was bracing myself because I'd seen so much on the hashtag coming from Australia about get rid of this band. It's the worst thing that's ever happened to Home and Away in years. And I was thinking, oh my God, what's going on? And I think because I'd had that I had a few months to prepare myself. I was thinking, oh God, what's going to happen when this band turns up? It sounds horrendous. Yeah. And then when they did, I think I'd mentally prepared myself for it. And then it wasn't what I was expecting it to be. And I actually didn't hate them. I actually really liked the band when they first turned up. I remember saying that to Si at the time. I don't hate them. I didn't think they were awful. And then as time has gone on, I've actually really grown to really like Eden and Remy. I really like their relationship and their dynamic.
Well, actually. I would agree with you there completely.
Yeah.
Now they've got their own storylines.
Yeah, now you see them out and about, like when you see like them integrating with other characters, like in the diner or with John Palmer. There's been some really good scenes with Remy and John. There's been some really good scenes with Eden and John.
Yeah.
Because obviously they're neighbours as well, aren't they? So they've got to know each other from that point of view.
Indeed.
I suppose for me, the only one that I'm still not sure about is Kirby, and she's, as we said this week, she's been texting Bob on the sly behind Theo's back. And then asked him to join the band for another, one last night, sing a song with us. All that's just happened this week. So I'm like, she's not actually, making me feel like she's very likable. Like she's not doing herself any favours, really.
She's not looking after our Theo, is she?
No, exactly. No. Look how protective we are of him now. It's mad. What a difference a year makes, eh?
I know, right?
Yeah, it's mad. So are you still, don't tell us what's going on obviously, but are you still not feeling the band even where you are at the moment at the pace that you're watching? Has your opinion changed at all, or
not of the band as a collective? No.
Okay. Yeah.
But I like I'm enjoying I like, as I said, Remy and Eden, and particularly Remy, I think, in his own storyline. With Brie, I think is really good. And there's some really, I won't say it, but there's some really good stuff coming up with Brie.
Okay.
It's so cleverly written.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, I'll tell you where we are with Brie and Remy at the moment.
So clever.
We've just seen them spend a night together in the motel. So Jacob at the moment has gone back to work. She's managed to convince him to go away again for 3 months. And she said to Remy, I need some space. That lasted about 5 minutes. And, now he's really in a space because they've spent the night together in the motel. So that's where we are with them at the moment.
Yeah. No, I won't say who or what, but there's something coming up with other people that she kind of becomes a part of.
Ooh.
And it's really, I found it really cleverly done. So that's all I will say.
That's exciting. Oh, I'm excited.
I hope I haven't built it up too much, but I was quite impressed.
Oh, that's good. Oh, that's something to look forward to then. Okay. Because we've been watching from behind a cushion, haven't we? Because every time they sort of are near each other or looking at each other, or the brushing of the hands and that kind of thing. Me and Si are like, oh my God, what if Jacob sees, or what if he comes back, or what if he's still watching them? And like, we're waiting for that moment where he bursts in the door and catches them together, I think, at the moment, aren't we?
Yeah. But it's good though. I think it's from, as I said, from Rory's point of view, it makes you kind of bother with him. It makes you sort of care a bit more.
Yes.
Whereas the four of them, I'd paint the wall and watch it dry. Right.
Thank you for listening. We will be back with more episode discussion from Summer Bay soon. Until then, join the discussion online at Coastal News Pod.